I'm Jade McNeil and welcome to the Beespace Podcast, your bi-weekly dose of business and property realness. No hype, no fluff, and definitely no BS. Just honest conversations about what it really takes to build something from nothing. Well, today I'm really excited to welcome my next guest onto the Beespace Podcast. I'd like to say hello to Sonika from Identity Places. Hello.
Hi, Jade.
I'm really excited to have you here today because I think your story is going to resonate with a lot of people. I've invited you on the podcast today because I would have liked to have heard your story about 10 years ago. So welcome and thank you for joining me today. Sonika, tell us a little bit about your business, Identity Places, what you do, where you do it, and a little bit about you.
Yes, so Identity Places is a new business, a year and a half in. We're based in Shropshire, in a non-article area, and we just wanted to get into some sort of property, and we started with HMOs. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment. Looking forward to some big projects.
What sort of level HMOs are you doing? What are you producing?
So our first one, which we've just completed, is just terrace house, 5-bed, 5-bath HMO, really. So we're starting off small, with no prior experience. But I think we're pretty confident now to kind of get going with the next one.
Okay, amazing.
So, yeah.
So before we kind of jump into a bit more around, your projects and what you do and what's coming up in the future, tell us a little bit about what life was like for you before you did property. It's very different to what it is now.
Oh, yes. Well, I'll take you back to my first career. Graduated from uni with a psychology degree. I was like, oh God, I love psychology, but what am I going to do with it? Decided to go into teaching. Got an opportunity, did it for about 10 years, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love teaching, but it got to the point where it was just becoming really difficult, not sustainable with just work-life balance. So decided to stop that, got married, and then I needed to do something for myself, so I did the most randomest thing. I started taking impressions of babies' hands and feet, so very artistic side to me. But again, it was a business. It was something that I created from scratch and took me 5 years. And I was just like, yes, something's still not feeling right. Who am I as a person? What do I really want to do? We've always wanted to do property, but just didn't know where to go and how to start that. And lucky I found you on Instagram. And that's where it all started, really. Never looked back.
Yeah, so full disclosure for everybody, Sonika has been working with me. I've been your mentor for over a year and a half now. And yeah, like you just said there, you found me on Instagram. So thank you for that. Thank you for choosing me as your mentor. So corporate career, then went into self-employment, which I think is really interesting. So you've always had that innate drive to be an entrepreneur and do your own thing. Do you see yourself as a natural entrepreneur?
No.
No, me neither. Yeah, I'm the same.
No, not at all. I think it helps that I've got a family that has that natural drive to be one, and the natural kind of attributes. My dad owns his own business. Never really paid attention to it, but it must have been there in the background to kind of absorb. Harry, my husband, he's had his business since 2012. That's all I know. And that's kind of like the pressures at home, the pressures at work, never stops 24/7. But if you ask me, like you've just done now, are you a natural entrepreneur? I don't think it comes naturally for me.
Interesting.
But,
so yeah, same about myself as well. It's not something I'm naturally, wasn't something that I would have said I was natural at. We'll jump back into that shortly, but you mentioned Harry there.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit of background about what does home life look like? It's busy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's manic at the moment. He runs, including the property side with me. He's about 10% in the property side, but including the property, we're running 3 businesses. And we've got 2 small kids. So we've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And you
Close
can
in age as
imagine,
well.
yep, yeah, little ones still in nappies,
God.
a little terror.
Oh.
But yeah, it's just constant. It is constant. Yeah, it is great though, Harry. But yeah, how do I put it? It's more kind of like deer in the headlights every single day, because you don't know what's going to happen with the kids, the businesses, but for some reason it works,
Yeah. And I'm guessing, like, because obviously you've been part of corporate life, you wouldn't choose to go back to that. Like if someone said to you, okay, here you go, take this magic pill, then you can go back to teaching full time and everything's going to be a lot calmer. I'm assuming you'd stick to what you're doing now.
100%.
Yeah.
Like I loved it, but now that I've seen this side of my life and what I have and the freedom and the flexibility, my eldest has just started school, being able to go and drop him off when I want to pick him up. And, it's those little things that you kind of look back and go, God, I couldn't have done that as a teacher.
Definitely. Yeah. I sometimes have like, I don't know what the best way to describe it is, like feelings of like pangs of anxiety thinking about having a boss. I'm like, oh my, I don't think I'm employable. I know I'm not employable anymore, but I'm literally like, oh my God, imagine having to like ask someone if I can go on holiday, for example. Like that's just something
Yeah.
I can't even begin to kind of get my head around. I think the point I'm trying to make here is like, it's hard, isn't it? Self-employment. It's really difficult, especially when your kids are small. And for you, like you're really early on, you're a year and a half in to running a property business. So in terms of like the way that we do deals, one deal is going to take at least a year. Well, the sort of deals you're doing, as in from finding it, buying it, developing all that, everything to the finished product where you are putting tenants in. That's going to take you a year within that process. It's not like the hand impressions before where you'd make a sale, send a product, get the income. What we do takes a lot longer. So that can be quite grueling, can't it? But yet we wouldn't choose it any other way, which I think is really interesting to point out, because you are someone that does have the experience of being in corporate and doing the juggle versus self-employment. So yeah, so your brand Identity Places, which I think is such a cool name. Do you want to share with us the story about how you got to that name? Because obviously I'm lucky to support many people in the property development space, business space, to create their brands. And you and I developed Identity Places together and selected the name together.
Yep.
And so many people come to me, and one of their biggest hurdles is, what's my name of my business? And I think your story is really profound of how you got to call it Identity Places. So can you share that with us, how you got there?
Yeah, I think the word identity, I think I felt like that needed to be in my name. I think the main reason why starting something new, such as property, was because I've always wanted to do it, but I wanted something on my own. I wanted to find that identity. Who am I as a person? Because once I had the kids and then I had no career, I was like, what am I doing? What am
Yeah,
I
I
doing
felt
with my
like that.
life? Am I mom? Am I, like the wife?
You're in
Am I the
service, aren't
cleaner?
you? You're in service
Yeah,
at that point. Like all you're doing is
yeah,
you like. I mean, we always are really as mums, but you're in service, especially when they're little, and they're relying on you to definitely stay alive. It's like
yeah,
your body really is not yours anymore. And I strongly remember feeling exactly the same as you when Riv was small, because mine have got the same age gap, but are obviously older than
yeah,
yours. Is I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what my identity is.
yeah. And it's precisely that. Like,
Mm.
I think with teaching, I had a big skill set, and I just wasn't using it anymore. So I was just
Yeah.
like, what am I going to do with all this prior knowledge and skills that I've acquired over the years? I'm not putting it to any use. I am just doing what I want to do with the kids. There's nothing for me. So identity was important to have in my brand name. I knew it's got to be in there. And lucky for me, coming from a psychology background, with the play of words again, there's a theory called place identity. And I was like, okay, interesting. So I kind of remembered that place identity is when, if you put a person in a comfortable place, they can be their true selves. They can relax. They're happy to do the things that they want to do because they're comfortable. And I was like, you know what, this is great, because not only is identity in there, not only is it come from a psychology background, that's me. You know, and then I spoke to you, didn't I? And I was just like, okay, I need to get this in. And you were just like, switch it around. You know, identity, places is, you know, the property, it's going to be the place where your tenants will live and be their true selves. And it was just, that was it. And I was just like, I absolutely love it. It's everything about me. It's everything that I can see the tenants living in a place where they can be their true selves. Yeah, I love it. I'm happy with it.
And it's your story, isn't it? It's about you stepping into that brand and becoming that version of yourself, the new version of yourself that you want to be. And same for me with Beespace, you know, like I think the past couple of years in particular, so Rivers, what, 7 now, so maybe let's say the past 5 or 6 years, I feel like I've never been stronger in my identity as a business owner and as a person as well, from really stepping into Beespace and really bringing it to life. And I think that's the power of what we do when we do brand, even our property businesses, is that it can give us more than what we anticipate in terms of uplift, you know, and enabling us to really become that business owner that we didn't even realize we could be. This episode of the Beespace Podcast is kindly sponsored by the wonderful people at Landlord Furniture Co. Specialising in a huge range of high-quality bespoke furniture, Landlord Furniture Co. provides durable pieces designed to last in your rental properties. If you're searching for the perfect furniture to attract professional HMO tenants, or need more resilient pieces for your student accommodations, considering cost-effective furniture packs for a larger property, or looking for something more personalised to elevate your serviced accommodation brand, whatever your need, Landlord Furniture Co. will craft a solution for you. You can say goodbye to rubbish old flat packs and start investing in a luxurious experience for your tenants. Backed by a 3-year warranty and exceptional customer service, they really are the smart choice for any landlord or property developer out there who takes their properties, their tenants and their business seriously. So ready to transform your spaces with Landlord Furniture Co. and ensure that your investments stand out in the market? Visit Landlord Furniture Co. today at www.landlordfurnitureco.co.uk, or you can head to their showroom, which is in Oldham, or find them over on Instagram at Landlord Furniture Co. Now, let's get back to the episode.
It's kind of funny you say that, actually, because I had a conversation with a friend yesterday, and they said, do you feel more comfortable as a person now? Like, do you know who you are? And I said, yeah, I do, which is really bizarre, because like what I've done now in my head is set certain goals for 5 and 10 years. Like, if you don't know who you are and what you want to achieve, you can't get to that point.
Absolutely,
in a way. You can't make those specific goals because you don't know who you are as a person. They could be empty goals, but in my eyes, they're not. They're solid goals. So yeah.
Yeah, it definitely gives you, stepping into that brand definitely gives you, you know, a real sense of purpose and direction for sure. And like you say, you know, I'm all about the 5-10 year goals and understanding what you're building and why you're building it, as you know. And I definitely think for you for the past 18 months, I've seen you grow as a person, particularly around confidence when making decisions. You know, you'll make decisions yourself without consulting me first, because you know that you've done your due diligence that you need to do to get to that point of a decision-making process. Whereas before it'd be like, don't know what to do, what do I do? Whereas now it's like, no, okay, all right, I'm cut my teeth. Like I'm going to make this, you know, decision and I'm going to move forward with it. So you're growing, you know, that's definitely happening. Around your mindset, do you feel like that's changed over the past 18 months?
Yeah, I think I've seen life in a different way at the moment. You know, it's a big year for me. I'm going to turn 40.
Not that bad, don't worry. Don't worry. Nothing changes, you know. You'll
No, just
survive.
wake up the next day, one extra grey hair. But yeah, no, yeah, I think my mindset's changed completely in terms of the outlook of life. Like
Yeah.
I don't take little negative things to heart anymore. It's just I'm in my own lane.
Good.
I'm in my own lane and I'm just
Mm.
working hard and yeah, I'm enjoying it. I love my family and and Harry's been a great support with this. But yeah, like my mindset's completely changed. I'm a lot more confident
Brilliant.
and yeah, I
You've
I
got
know
that
hopefully what I'm
direction.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. And you can only know what you're talking about by going through the motions, right? Who
Yeah.
would have known, right? Who would have known that as women, we could gain such empowerment through building a property portfolio on more levels than just, I mean, obviously it's wonderful to own assets for a long time and build up those really strong assets in great areas. But there's just a lot more that you're getting from it that I'm witnessing, and also from myself and other people, females around me for sure. Crazy, really, when you think about it. The property industry. So when you kind of made that decision to step into it 2 years, 18 months ago, what was your perception of it in terms of it being male dominated? And how, two questions, and what was your perception of it being male dominated, and how has it the reality been now you're in it?
My perception was it was totally male dominated.
Oh,
Like
interesting. Okay.
for me, I hadn't come across a single woman and I hadn't done
Mm.
my prior research. So I know there are a lot of women out there doing that now.
Mm.
But I mean, if you asked me like this 18 months ago, I'd be like, no, completely 100% male dominated. There might be women in the field, but in
Mm.
terms of property investor and developer, none.
Did that
Um,
not put you off?
yeah.
Did it?
And I think that's probably why I didn't get into property sooner. And it was
Ah,
only
interesting.
until I think you being present there on social media was a
Mm.
big aid. My friend Shireen, she's an interior designer, and it was her who basically said, "Look, I follow a lady called Jade Beespace. Just watch her for a bit." And that's what I did, and I was like,
Love
I was
that.
blown away. I was like,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, but it just in the sense that there's women doing this, and obviously yeah, like your groups and the people that you follow and the people that follow you, the big, female following. And I'm
Yeah.
like, shit, people are doing this. Like women are doing this.
Yeah, and they're similar to you, right? Like I am. Like I might have little kids, might be looking at after elderly parents. Like they've got stuff going on, but they're still doing it, and they're like-minded as well. So like I always
Yeah.
talk about, for me, my experience was like when I decided to really get into it properly. I just thought, oh God, it's just all 50-year-old white male accountants doing it. Like
Yeah.
there's definitely no place for me being a working class, gobby, creative person with tattoos to make it.
Yeah.
I'll never
Yeah.
get any respect in this industry. And that was my perception of it. So, and since, getting into it and trying to, as I always do with everything, because I'm a disruptor by nature, trying to challenge the perception and trying to encourage other people to come forward. And to hear you say that is like huge. So thank you. It means it's working, right? And it's
Yeah.
also as well, I think property development, people see it as it's what the rich do as well.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
you've got to be like super rich to be able to do it, be a man, be white, and be about
Yeah.
55. And it's like, no, it's not. And that's why it's important to tell stories like yours, because we're just normal people that,
Yeah.
have took action and made the right connections and so on and so forth. So yeah. So now you're in the industry. Obviously, you kind of touched on it there. Does it feel male dominated to you now?
I still think there is some majority level of male dominance,
Mm.
but it's opened my eyes up to the fact the amount of women actually out there investing. And I think like going to kind of like the events that you hold or
Mm.
um just connecting with other women, it's profound like to realize how many women there are there. But yeah, I feel like there still needs to be work done
definitely.
to women. And I think coming from my point of view is, you know, a little Asian woman. So it's like the ethnic minority as well. And again, if we go back to kind of really dissecting this, it is a lot of, you know, men out there. Then there's women out there. But I feel like the small element of it is that there's not many women of color doing it. I've realized when I've connected with people.
I completely agree.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's still work to be done, but I'm happy women are doing it. I think it's great. All support for women.
Yeah, definitely. This is going off on a bit of a tangent, but you know, I've always been of the true belief that if anyone's gonna improve standards and change, you know, the way that property developers are perceived, it'll be females. Because the lion's share of us do come at it from a human angle and not just does this Excel spreadsheet work. Obviously, there's some of that included, but there is much more, you know, human consideration that's going to come from females. I'm not stating all guys out there, don't get me wrong, but let's look at the history books and kind of what's happened before. It's mostly men that have done that. And that's why I'm such, it's so important to me to encourage more women to come forward to do a great job in their local area, because that will inspire other people. I think sometimes for me, I am possibly cocooned in an Instagram bubble of reality, what's not reality, in terms of like, well, I've got loads of females in and around me. I know loads and loads and loads and loads that are doing it, like thousands now. It's incredible. There wasn't that in Instagram, you know, back in the day. There's just a few of us. So that's got to be a real reflection of the real world. But you've just told us 18 months ago that's not what you saw. So yeah, there's absolutely work to be done for sure.
Yeah, I'm getting people going, I can't believe you're doing property. Not that they don't think I have it in me, it's just not the norm. They're like, yeah, are you okay? Are you surviving? No, I'm not okay, but I'm doing it. So I'll be okay. But no, yeah.
But you're doing it, but you understand why you're doing it, right? And you understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, when you're doing it, what the risks are associated and stuff like that. So how kind of keeping on the theme of social media, like you've done really well with your social media. I think you've been really consistent, you've shown up, you know, your messaging's been great. How have you found that over the past 18 months? Because for me, as I always talk about, it's very different now to what it was 2016, 15. It's such a different, obviously Instagram's our chosen platform that we're on. Like, how have you found that experience?
I'm quite a private person. I mean, my private Instagram account, I rarely post anything. I'm just there lurking, as people say. But yeah,
at least you're honest.
Yeah, just having a nosy. But yeah, I think for me, I think that was a big step, like for me to take, because I was just not comfortable doing it. But I think as I started and I, you know, because I love what I'm doing, it just almost feels a little bit more natural now.
Yeah. It's
I
your
mean, it's
story.
yeah, exactly. And everything's like making sense and all the dots are connecting for me. So it just comes out more naturally. Obviously, there's certain types of strategies that you need to put into place to get a wider audience or get more followers or whatever it is. But for me, I'm quite comfortable just getting out there and telling my story. So yeah.
I think for you though, and this is for many people that work with me, you know, on a one-to-one level, and we look at that social media and kind of getting it going. In the early days, I think the number one priority that you focus on, it's like not, oh, I need to get to 10,000 followers or whatever, because you need to understand why you need to be at 10,000 followers. It's connection. It's literally connection of being able to talk to somebody on DMs, be able to, you know, hopefully see some inspirational content that you can take forward. But primarily it is about connecting with people that are like-minded, that are doing similar stuff or are ahead of you or whatever. That's the number one thing that, you know, in the early days that we're focused on. Things change as you grow, obviously, but yeah, that's huge. And you've done a really good job of that. So you've basically found it quite a positive experience.
Yeah, so far. Like I haven't had anything that I found tricky, or I haven't had any trolls. I'm not famous enough for that, but you know, I mean, I haven't had anybody, you know, say anything negative. But I think as it develops, I think you just need to grow a thick skin, I suppose, and you know, be aware of what's going to happen.
I think for me, the trolls thing, it's if your content is authentic and genuine and you're doing what you say you're doing, you don't get it.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
it is that if you're showboating and you know saying unrealistic things, then you get it. So yeah, but that's probably an entire episode for another time
Yes.
to talk about. So let's talk me through your first deal then. So obviously you've just completed your first 5-bed, 5 en suites, non-Article 4 HMO.
Yeah.
Why HMO? Why did you start there? Because that's quite significant to start HMO, because most people will start a vanilla buy-to-let or they might do a small flip. But why did you jump straight into HMOs?
Well, I didn't know I was going to do a HMO until I spoke to you. So yeah, there was no reasoning behind it at all. It was just had that conversation with you. It just made sense at the time because obviously with mortgage rates being so high, there was going to be no kind of obviously return in that. And for us, you know, starting at the age of like 40 and there's people doing it a lot younger, I feel like I had to fast track myself. And I felt like HMOs was the most ideal choice. And yeah, kind of, I don't know any better. Like, I don't know any better. I don't have any buy-to-lets.
Yeah, true. It's a good point.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, it is what it is. It's HMO for me, and that's all I know right now. So yeah.
How have you found the process?
I've enjoyed it, but because I've had to learn every single step, because I've never experienced anything from liaising with solicitors, obviously buying our own house, but yeah, that's completely different. And then architects and builders and insurances and HMO officer and everything else that goes with it. The one that we've just done is a conservation area and learning a few things the hard way as well. Where our chimney collapsed and we were like, this is not supposed to disappear in a conservation area. So kind of quickly rectifying that. So yeah, it's been very challenging, but I've really, really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. So
how have you
still learning?
Yeah, well, I am though, even you never stop. Honestly, you never stop. And I would have said to you before to you, it's how you deal with things, because every day is a school day in this industry, because your buildings get bigger, they get more technical, planning gets more technical, the money, the zeros get added on. It's just, there's always a new school day, but it's having the resilience to go, there is an answer. There is an answer to this new problem that we're facing today, if I know the right expert, if I've got the right support. So like, I guess, if you've gone through the first HMO process, how have you dealt with challenges?
I think you've been there as a safety blanket, and not me kind of coming to you every time, but just knowing that you're there has made me more confident in making decisions. So if there is something that I have no idea about and how to resolve, I know, like you've told me in the past, there's always an answer to it. So I've had to just go and do the research and contact professionals and speak to like-minded people, speak to yourself, and I know I'm going to deal with it. If I did this without yourself or having prior knowledge or support, I just think I would have given up, to be honest. It's not easy, but I think having that confidence and knowing there's someone there back in your corner, you're gonna get there.
Power team is everything, right? How many times have you had to go and speak to this person and speak to that person? It's like, even me as your mentor, I don't have every single answer to every single question. But what, a lot of it I do. But when it's like really, say like it's conservation, I'm not a conservation officer. So it's like, okay, we need to speak to this person to get that answer. But so if you've got your power team built in and around you, you know that you can get anything answered. Whether you get the answer you want is a different subject, but at least you can, get to where you need to know in terms of like taking some solution forward. So yeah. But you've enjoyed the process of your first HMO.
Yeah, really have. Like, it's been new, it's exciting. I mean, I think when it was completed, it hadn't sunk in, and I was there still running around going, oh, make sure this is right, this is right. We've got staging, we've got, photography, whatever it is. And I think it is when I went in a week later and I looked at it, I was by myself. I was just like, I've created this. Yeah. Like me, like I've done this. Yes, I've had a great power team, but ultimately it's mine. I did this. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're making the final decisions.
I still can't believe it. And I think because I'm so busy now with the next one, you don't sometimes have that time to reflect because you just carry on and you carry on. But when you take a moment, and obviously now during this podcast, we're having a moment, you go, shit, I created that.
Yeah. Do you know what as well? Like creating HMOs, particularly your first one, is the most technical thing you'll ever do. The technical beast for so many reasons.
Yeah.
The deal sourcing bit at the beginning is really technical because of X, Y, and Z. And then doing the build, you're asking a lot of the space, and you've got to have a switched on builder, and you've got tight like restrictions, and then you've got compliance and amenity, building regs, HMO officer, like fire, like EPC. You've got so much. And then when all that noise is done, you've got to tenant it. You've got to license it, you've got to be legal, you've got to be on call. And it's like it is each asset you create is an operational business, with a bottom line. So you've created that from scratch, and you should be super, super proud. For me, it's like when you first sent me all of the images over and I started to see it come out on Instagram, I always think the same thing when I see something like this. And I always think, wow, we've come a long way in the industry, because you've got to remember that, 9-10 years ago, that product didn't exist. Now on Instagram, we see great products coming through all the time. That's not reality. It is on Instagram in the bubble, but that product didn't exist. Now we need more of that to come through, more of it to come through, because of the reasons we discussed earlier on. It's like that the ripple and positive effect that has on a local level. And I see it, and when I see a product like that, I think that's how it's done. Not just because it looks good. I know that product functions. I know it's been considered for how people are going to live in there, and I know it's got longevity in terms of the materials that you've used. So it's I always have, as I say, I'm saying it to somebody who's similar age to me, I have that proud mum moment where I'm like, yes. What's next for you? What's the pipeline like?
Okay, so we've got a bigger project. So it is another HMO, but it's double the size or more than double.
Why not?
So
why not? Double the pain.
Yeah. So we're potentially looking at a 12-bed. Again, new professionals to consult. We need to get a transport consultant. We've got planning applications to go through. It's a bigger project. I'm looking forward to this one. Just because where it's located, but also just going back to what I want to create is to give back to the community. And I want to create this community in Telford for young professionals, but kind of give back to local businesses too. So I want to get local businesses involved and go, look, we're going to have these young people. They're going to know about your businesses, whether it's a restaurant, cafe, bookshop, whatever it is. And I want to create that community hub in Telford. And that's kind of my longer game plan.
And you'll get that through branding your properties.
Yeah.
I will never forget when you brought me this deal to look at during a session, and we did our usual
number crunching
process that I do when I'm looking at potential deal. And we looked at the aerial map view, and it's on a huge plot, isn't it?
Yeah.
And surrounding it is lots of big blocks of fancy flats. And I was like, okay, this is the approach. Let's buy that.
Yeah.
And long-term view is that potentially we could develop it right out. And obviously for now, you're going to basically split the building, add a little bit to it, and create 2 HMOs, accumulatively come into 12 beds. But splitting it into to therefore give you less aggravation on management, because 2 6s are obviously nicer to manage. So this I'm excited for you long term for this deal, because we've got what we're going to do now. And then we've got the potential to hold and keep for the future as well. And obviously you know, through the due diligence process we did, looked at the site. Okay, so many apartments here. This has been passed on planning. So it's like everything's pointing, all the ticks, everything's lining up for it to be a potential larger development down the line. So that's a nice thing to sit on in your portfolio, you know, to understand that you've got that for later. So that's exciting. So, you know, what's the bigger vision for Identity Places? Where's it going? What does 5 years look like for the brand?
5 years. I think 5 years for me is somewhere where I'm, and I thought this sounds really cocky, but it's not. It's just my internal kind of thoughts. I want to be known as the best, you know, luxury co-living space in the Shropshire area.
Good.
And if I can expand out of that, even better. Like, you know, kind of coming to my own home city, maybe. That'd be great. It's Arctic Port area, but I mean, I think once I've built a portfolio, I'm hoping, you know, that does the talking for me. So yeah, but again, going back to community, I want to have something substantial where I can look back and go, oh, I've even got more freedom. I've got processes in place. I've got potentially someone working for me to take off that load and more bigger projects.
Yeah.
I don't want to stop now. It's one of those, like, you know, I'm excited for the future. So yeah.
Yeah, and you know what, your kids are only really small, really, in comparison. You know, think about when they're 7 and 9, how things will look for you will absolutely be there. So no, it's really, really exciting. And don't forget, just touching on the Article 4 thing, that because you've got that whole city restriction in Wolverhampton, there's always a way. There's loads of loopholes, but you've got to be ready for that. You know, and that's what you're doing at the minute. You're putting those foundation building blocks in on knowledge, experience, reputation, and you are building towards that, with it being, okay, this is, you know, year 3, year 4, year 5, I'm going to get into Article 4. And I think that's really smart, because it's about having that focused plan and staying focused and going, you know, does this next deal align with what I'm trying to build? Yes or no? You know, for example, oh, look, I've seen some SA in the Cotswolds. That's not going to build Identity Places in Shropshire, is it? So it's like, okay, just having that as your measuring stick. So if somebody's sat there now and, you know, they are wanting to make the plunge into property development or self-employment in general, you know, in a related type of business, what advice would you share with them?
I would say do it, because you need to do research, you need to educate yourself. But I think for me, what's been the most substantial, well, piece of advice I could give is get a mentor. Like, if you have no experience whatsoever in property, I think it kind of helps with due diligence. It helps with managing risk and fast tracking your education. You know, you've got someone who's experienced in the field who's going to tell you a yes and a no. You know, maybe, you know, you're going to get some answers. But it's like, I think if you did it on your own whim, like, yeah, great, go for it, but you might make some costly mistakes if you're not educated. So yeah, I think there's a lot out there that can support you now.
So if someone's going to choose a mentor, what should they look for then? Because there's loads of people doing mentoring in property development. What would you say?
I think personally for me, being a woman, I think kind of another woman would be great, just because like they can identify just on your personal level as well. Like if you're a mother, you've got a family, they understand the struggles. So I think that's really key for me. So if I'm speaking out to another woman, yeah, I think another woman, but also somebody who's going to listen to you. I feel like there's a lot of mentors out there doing it for the quick bucks, going, oh yeah, I could charge this much to mentor somebody, and yeah, I've got like a standardized plan that I'm going to give to my mentee, and they can just go and do their homework. But I think it's been a sounding board, and I think just being there for the person kind of through the different phases of the property journey, whether that's personal, you know, your stresses, your worries, somebody who's there with key experience.
100%. And I think as well, like fundamentally, when you're choosing a mentor, you want to choose somebody that's already built the business that you'd love to build.
Yeah,
because
100%.
they've been through it, right? Like they know that situation. that shitstorm you're about to head into, they've been there. They know who they need to speak to, you know, and fundamentally that's the key thing to look for somebody, and also get referrals, right? Like, speak to other people that have worked with them and ask them, how was your experience, and get that. It's really important. It's such a bugbear of mine in this industry, property development. Like you mentioned, so many people mentoring, but they don't really have the experience. And it's just, yeah. So obviously your experience has been positive, which is brilliant. And yeah, it can make a huge difference to someone's story, someone's journey in building their portfolio. So the question that I like to wrap up the pod with is, Sonika, tell us, what does it really take to build something from nothing?
A lot of determination, a lot of moments of expressing your emotion, whether that's crying, a lot of grit. I think you've got to have that vision, and and just keep going. I think for me, being tunnel visioned and just keep focusing. But yeah, ultimately determination, because it's not easy at all, but I love it.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with us today. I think it's a really important one to share for so many different reasons. And hopefully, you know, there are individuals out there that listen to you and think, oh, hold on a minute, if she's done it, I'm in a similar situation, surely I can do it. So please keep telling your story, you know, keep going with your Instagram, because the more women in particular that see it, the better. And honestly, it's about that little ripple effect that everything we do that has for the positive. So Sonika, if somebody wants to find you, where can they find you on Instagram?
Yes, identity.places on Instagram. Just come and follow me, have a nosy, see what I'm up to. I'm trying to kind of document what I do. So yeah, come and find me there.
Amazing. All right, my love. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Jade.
Thank you. That's a wrap for another episode of the Beespace Podcast. I've been your host, Jade McNeil, property developer, mentor, and business coach. Don't forget to subscribe on your favourite platforms. And until next time, remember, don't believe the hype and always keep it real.